That's fine. The white, yeah, that was the big one.
Or you want to sit on the elevated seat? Maybe. Yeah.
We could do that.
Or just roll us off to the side. Right, right. Just don't fall on my neck.
Oh, that's
Yes, yes, that area.
Minutes to air. Mr. Fillmore, Mr. Cayley, Miss Merriweather, Mr. McDilly, Mr. Barker, Mr. Bell, Miss Applewhite, Miss Keith, Miss Ray. This is your 10-minute warning. Please check your scripts and props and get ready for the audience warm-up. 10 minutes to air. And Mr. Bell, no whoopee cushion today.
No whoopee cushion. These people love that kind of humor. How about a joy buzzer? Ready to party. Well. We don't actually do a radio show in front of an audience. Right now. See all of them. How are you? Everything going I don't know how you feel about
Five minutes to go. Actors, please, on stage. This is your 5-minute call.
Mr. Fillmore, no. I really don't. It'll be nice later, but before the show now.
Check. Miss Keys, Miss Merriweather on stage, please. Mr. Fillmore, places for audience warm-up, please. We're at 4 minutes to air.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of our studio audience, and welcome to a live broadcast of WGCA's Playhouse of the Air. We thank you for coming out on this cool evening, and you'll be glad you did when you hear the story we have for you tonight, Miracle on 34th Street. Remember, this evening's program is being broadcast live from coast to coast, and our listeners are counting on your reactions to be part of their listening pleasure. So don't be shy, and feel free to applaud, laugh, swoon, or cry just as loudly as the spirit moves you. I'm getting a message from our stage manager that we will be going live on the air in less than 3 minutes, which allows me just enough time to introduce you to the fine acting ensemble who will be performing tonight's story. Here's our producer and fellow actor, Mr. William Cayley.
You better not lie, kids. He's back, fresh from the horror classic Dracula Meets Santa, and the musical blockbuster Mr. Claus and the Chorus Girls. Mr. Clayton McDilly. This versatile actress has recently returned from performances of Seaweed Serenade aboard the HMS Queen Mary. Our WGCA audiences will remember her fondly as the best-looking dog in a dress, Hope of Merriweather.
I'd like to introduce actor and director Orson Bell, who you'll remember from the controversial Halloween radio drama War of the Planets, and soon-to-be-released movie Citizen Pain.
Our next little lady needs no introduction. You know her as the Mississippi River Queen of Everything, soon to be starring in the world premiere of You Know Me, You Love Me, I'll Change. Please give her a warm welcome, Miss Sally Applewhite.
Best known for his memorable catchphrase, "Holy mackerel Montgomery, that's wacky," this gentleman is familiar to fans worldwide as First Mate Forthright in Captain Montgomery on Mongo Bongo Island. Please help me welcome a real heartthrob, William Cayley.
You know him as Rupert Barker on WGCA's weekly serial, The Rice is White, and soon to be appearing on stage in the new hilarious comedy, Let's Break Some Steel. Your favorite and mine, Mr. Freddie Fillmore.
And introducing the youngest member of our cast, You may remember her as the orphan baby in Dust Bowl Delight. She has also been heard sipping milk through a straw on board and radio ads. Here's darling little Scarlet Ray. At the sound table, the man whose recent work on WGCA's presentation of War and Peace still has audiences deafened, Dayton Barker. And at the piano, just back from New York City's Radio City Music Hall, where her nimble fingers created the music for the Rockettes Christmas show, Kick It Up for Santa, Miss Ivory Keys.
We are live in 5, 4, 3.
In Chile, Galena.
This is WGCA, Playhouse of the Air. Welcome to our radio theater, and warmest holiday wishes to you from all of us. You'll hear a wonderful program tonight, but first, a word from one of our sponsors, who helped bring you the WGCA Playhouse. Now, what are Hope and Sally talking about?
Oh, I am so tired. Me too. My feet are killing me. Is it much further? I hope not. What about everyone else? I'm worried about Aunt Mary. Well, at least we found something to keep her dog happy. Yes. Oh, that's true, but I am so hungry. Me too, and thirsty. Oh, my arms are aching from carrying such a heavy load. Here, let me help you. I think we're almost there. Is that it? Yes, I think so. Oh, and the lights are on. I see smiling faces at last. This is Soho House Hotel! Drinks and friendly staff and comfortable rooms in a beautiful historic building. Shopping in Galena is such a fun, but the delightful stores and boutiques, but it's very tiring. Yes. What a pleasure it is to have a night at the DeSoto House Hotel for our evening respite. Oh.
You shop all day long and you're weary. Just let the problem go. Cheery, 'cause DeSoto's the best. A good place to rest. Nighty night. Choose a steak or a salad or catfish. Whatever treat would be your wish. They'll serve with a smile. Climb the big aisle. Yummy, yum. Stores and more for shopping. Galena, you are a dream. And when I feel like dropping,
At DeSoto, I am the queen.
oh, the day may be long and you're weary. That's not a problem, dearie, 'cause DeSoto's the best. A good place to rest. Nighty night. 'Cause DeSoto's the best. A good place to rest. Nighty night. Ladies and gentlemen, your producer, Mr. William Cayley.
Greetings from Galena, ladies and gentlemen. Our holiday present to you is the new Christmas classic of our time, Miracle on 34th Street. It's wrapped in a gay covering of laughter, tied with a bright ribbon of good humor, and decorated with the sparkling stars of our radio acting company. This is a wonderful, heartwarming story for the whole family, and perhaps some families may be gathered around the Christmas tree as they listen. Others will be putting up this happy sign of the season in a few days, with lights and ornaments and shining artificial snow. But right now, it's curtain time for the play that proves there is a Santa Claus. Miracle on 34th Street. It's Thanksgiving Day in New York City. On a broad avenue adjoining Central Park, an annual event is being joyfully awaited. The spectacular parade presented by Macy's department store to herald in the Christmas season. Away from the crowd are two of Macy's public relations experts.
He's simply wonderful, Mrs. Walker. Just look at him on that float. The most realistic Santa Claus we've ever had. Why, he didn't even need any padding, did he?
Padding?
Why, didn't you notice his tummy? So round, so firm, so fully packed. Well, now that everything's under control, where on earth did you find him?
I don't know. I just turned around and there he was.
And to think that the man whose place he took was intoxicated.
With a breath that would knock over a reindeer.
Oh, just think if Mr. Macy had seen him.
What if Mr. Gimble had seen him? Competition between our two stores is tough enough.
Well, the parade's starting. Let's stand by the curb.
Oh, not I, Mr. Shellhammer. I'm going home to relax. Anyway, I can see it from there. I just live around the corner.
Oh, so you do. Well, I'll see you tomorrow, Mrs. Walker, and congratulations on finding the best Santa Claus in Macy's history.
Oh, it certainly is a wonderful parade, Susan. Just look at that clown. My, what a giant.
Giant, Mr. Daly? There's no such thing as giant.
Well, maybe not now, but in olden days, there...
Really, Mr. Daly? And you a lawyer?
Well, what about the giant that Jack killed? You know, Jack and the Beanstalk.
Everybody knows that that's a fairy tale, and I agree with my mother. Fairy tales are silly.
Come in.
Good afternoon. I'm Susan's mother. My maid said that...
Oh, hello, Mother. I'm watching the parade. Mr. Daly invited me.
Oh, hello, darling.
Susie told me quite a lot about you, Mrs. Walker.
She's told me quite a lot about you, too. The man in the front apartment.
Well, this is all part of a plot, Mrs. Walker. I'm very fond of Susie, but I wanted to meet you, too.
Oh, well, at least you're frank.
There goes Santa Claus.
Oh, don't even mention the name.
Why not, Mother?
Oh, well, that Santa Claus, you see, is a last-minute substitute.
But why?
You remember the way the janitor was last New Year?
Oh, my. Tight as an owl.
I see Susan doesn't believe in Santa Claus either.
That's right. She never has.
Well, it's the end of the parade. Mother, I've been thinking. It's Thanksgiving, and there are only the two of us. Couldn't we invite Mr. Daly?
Oh, well,
Oh, please, don't bother. I'll just have a sandwich or something.
But we have such a big turkey. Please, Mother, please.
Well,
Can I ask all right, Mr. Daly?
You asked just fine, Susan. Dinner's at 3, Mr. Daly.
Hello, Mrs. Walker?
Yes, Mr. Shellhammer?
Your maid said that you were at Thanksgiving dinner, but I just had to tell you, your Santa Claus was stupendous.
Well, thank you.
Mr. Macy himself wants him to be our toy department Santa Claus.
Oh, fine. Can you hire him?
Oh, I already have. Oh, he's a born salesman. I can just feel it.
Oh, good. We'll talk about it in the morning. Thanks for calling, Mr. Shellhammer.
Here he is, Mr. Shellhammer. Here's Santa Claus.
Oh, thank you, Alfred. Thank you. Good morning, Santa Claus. Good morning. Now, before you go to the toy department, here's a list of toys that we have to push. Oh. You know, things we're overstocked on. Now, you'll find that a great many children will be undecided as to what they want for Christmas. And when that happens, you immediately suggest one of these items. Do you understand? I certainly do. Fine, that's fine. Now, take a list, and Alfred here will show you to your throne in the toy department. And don't forget, you're working for Macy's. Why, of course I am.
What do you want for Christmas, little boy?
I want a fire engine with a real hose that squirts real wet water, and I won't do it in the house, only in the backyard, I promise.
Oh, and I promise you'll get your fire engine.
Oh, you see, Mama, I told you he'd get it for me. That's fine. That's just dandy. You wait here, Mortimer. Mama wants to thank Santa Claus, too. Santa?
Yes, madam?
Say, what's the matter with you?
Oh, no. What's the trouble?
I told you before, didn't I? The kid wants a fire engine, but there isn't one to be had anywhere in town. Macy's ain't got any. Kimball's ain't got any. Nobody's got any. My feet are killing me, and you say, okay, he gets the fire engine.
But you can get those fire engines at Schoenfeld's, Lexington Avenue. Only $4.50. A wonderful bargain.
Schoenfeld?
Yes?
I don't get it.
Oh, I follow the toy market very closely.
Macy's sending people to other people's stores?
Yes?
Are you kidding?
But no. The one important thing is to make the children happy. Whether Macy's or somebody else sells the toy doesn't matter. Don't you feel that way?
Who, me?
Yes?
Oh, yeah, sure. But I don't get it. I just don't get it. Come on, Mortimer.
Who's next, please? Right this way to see Santa Claus. All right, little girl, you're next.
Of course, little girl. You want some roller skates. Well, you should have them, too.
Mama, he's going to bring me some roller skates. And he has some fine skates here at Macy's, haven't you, Santa?
Oh, they're good skates, all right, but not quite good enough. Now, I left some really wonderful roller skates at Gimbel's. I'm sure Gimbel's have just what this little girl wants. Very good. Gimbel? That's what he did say. Gimbel?
Shellhammer, are you Mr. Shellhammer?
Gimbel?
The sales lady said I should speak to you.
Gimbel?
I just want to congratulate you and Macy's on this wonderful new stunt you're pulling.
Gimbel?
Just imagine a big outfit like Macy's putting the spirit of Christmas before the commercial. From now on, I'm going to be a regular Macy's customer. All right, Mortimer, we're going.
And there's the toy department over there, Mr. Daly.
Oh, you sure know a lot about Macy's, don't you, Susie?
Well, that's because my mother works here. But I still think it's silly bringing here to see Santa Claus.
Well, I just feel that maybe once you've talked to him, you'll...
Okay, Mr. Daly, I'm certainly willing to try.
Well, what a fine young lady. What's your name, little girl?
Susan Walker, what's yours?
Mine? I'm Chris Kringle. I'm Santa Claus. Oh, you don't believe that, eh?
You see, my mother's Mrs. Walker.
Oh.
But I must say, you're the best-looking Santa Claus I've ever seen.
Really?
Your beard, for instance, it doesn't have one of those things that goes over your ears.
Oh, that's because it's real, just like I'm Santa Claus. Now go ahead, pull it, rock.
Oh my goodness, it is real.
Oh, yes. And now, what would you like me to bring you for Christmas?
Nothing, thank you. Whatever I want, my mother will get, if it's sensible and doesn't cost too much.
Oh.
That's quite right, Susan.
Oh, hello, Mother.
Hello, Mr. Gailey.
Hello. The explanation for all this is really very simple. Your maid's mother hurt her ankle, and she had to go home, so she asked me to bring Susie down to you. And I just figured while we were here, we might as well stop and see Santa Claus.
He has real whiskers, Mother.
Susan, would you mind standing over there?
Do you want me to?
I shouldn't have brought Susie to see Santa. Is that it?
Now you're making me feel completely heartless.
I'm sorry.
Don't you see? I tell Susan that Santa Claus is a myth, And you show her a very convincing old man with real whiskers. Who is she to believe?
Yeah, that's right, isn't it?
When Susan was a baby, her father and I were divorced. And ever since then, I have protected my child by teaching her realities. If you don't believe in fairy tales and fantasy, you can never be hurt or disillusioned.
We were talking about Susie, Mrs. Walker.
And I must ask you to let me raise her as I see fit. All right, dear. The store's going to be closing. Let's run along to my office.
Alfred said you wanted to see me, Mrs. Walker.
Yes. Please come in. I would be grateful if you would please tell Susan that you are not really Santa Claus, that there actually is no such person.
Oh, but Mrs. Walker, not only is there such a person, but here I am to prove it.
No. You misunderstand. I want you to tell her the truth. Now, what's your real name?
Kris Kringle, and I always tell the truth. Susan, I'll bet you're in the first grade.
Second grade?
I mean your real name.
Well, that is my real name. My goodness, the second grade.
Very well. I have your employment card right here. I will look it up on that.
Oh, that's a very cute dress you have on today, Susan.
It's from Macy's. We get 10% off.
Oh.
So you always tell the truth.
Hmm.
Susan, will you wait for me in the hall, please? Look at your employment card.
Name, Kris Kringle. Address, Brooks Memorial Home, Great Neck, Long Island. You may call the home if you care to confirm that, Mrs. Walker. It's a home for elderly gentlemen.
Would you also like me to confirm this?
What's that?
Date of birth. As old as my tongue and a little bit older than my teeth. Place of birth. North Pole. Now really.
Why, I believe you doubt me, Mrs. Walker.
Oh, and this tops everything. Next of kin.
Oh, that.
Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, and Vixen. I am sorry to have to do this, Mr.
Kringle.
But the Santa Claus that we had 2 years ago is back in town, and I feel that we owe it to him to,
Have I done something wrong?
No. It's just that I feel that... Oh, excuse me. Hello?
This is Mr. Shellhammer, Mrs. Walker. Drop whatever you're doing. Mr. Macy wants to see us immediately.
I'll be right up. I am afraid I'm going to have to be very abrupt with you. I have to see Mr. Macy, so you will be paid for the full week, Mr. Kringle, and I'll send you the check to that address.
Come right in, Mrs. Walker, Mr. Shellhammer.
Thank you, Mr. Macy.
Now, about this new policy you two initiated. Macy's Santa Claus sending customers to Gimbals.
But I can explain everything, Mr. Macy.
You don't have to explain a thing. Just look at my desk. 42 telegrams and over 500 phone calls. Grateful parents expressing undying gratitude to Macy's department store.
You don't say.
And from now on, not only will our Santa Claus continue in this manner, but every salesperson in the entire store.
You mean if we haven't got what the customer asked for, we're to...
We're to send him where he can get it. No high pressuring and forcing a customer to take something he doesn't really want.
Oh, I think that's wonderful, Mr. Macy.
Why, we'll be known as the helpful store, the friendly store, the store that places public service ahead of profits. And consequently, we'll make more profits than ever. And as you, Mr. Walker and Mr. Shellhammer, you'll find more practical expression of my gratitude in your Christmas envelopes.
Oh!
Thank you.
Thank you, yes.
And tell that wonderful Santa Claus I won't forget him either. Matter of fact, I'll tell him myself in the morning.
Yes, indeed, Mr. Macy.
Good night. Good night.
Good night, Mr. Macy.
And thank you again, sir. Oh, imagine, a bonus.
Yes.
Well, what's the matter with you?
Mr. Shellhammer, I fired him.
Who?
Santa Claus.
Oh, no. No, you couldn't have.
But I did. He's crazy. He's crazy, Mr. Shellhammer. He really thinks he is Santa Claus.
I don't care if he thinks he eats the bunny. Find him.
Act 2 of Miracle on 34th Street will continue in a moment. But first, a word from our sponsor. It was the night before Christmas, and all through the house, many creatures were stirring, not only a mouse. There were ants and flies with legs so thin, and a pesky dog barking, whining to be let in. In the kitchen an uproar of cockroaches galore, and the same pesky dog barking at the door. Centipedes, millipedes, earwigs and more, mice running wild all over the floor. The dog may howl, there's no use in that. What should we do? We don't have a cat. No dog, nor cat, nor aerosol spray will save your home from these pests today. Oh, rats and mice and fires to my home with them is crawling. I don't know what to do, what would you? Roaches and many more are marching round my kitchen. Tell me just what to do to bugaboo. Exact pest solution, a game of magic call. They'll call me quick bait and trapping. I agree with great and small, but not in the wall. Exact will send pest packing. Oh, ladybug, my elders do, my porches are swarming. Here's just what I'll do. Exact will have the clue.
Now I have stink bugs, too.
Show me the folks Yahoo.
To get rid of this rodent brood.
And they'll expect adieu. You are listening to WGCA Radio.
In charming Galena.
Frantic few hours that Doris spent last night rushing out to Brooks Memorial Home in Long Island and assuring Kris Kringle that Macy's wanted him back as Santa Claus. Now, Kris is again presiding over the crowded toy department, while in her office, Doris and Mr. Shellhammer.
Don't you understand, Mr. Shellhammer? That old man with the nice white whiskers insists that he is Santa Claus. Why, he is out of his mind. What if he should have a fit or something? Oh, no. I have got to tell Mr. Macy.
Yes, but maybe he's only a little crazy. Anyway, you can't be sure until he's examined. We'll send him to Mr. Sawyer.
Mr. Sawyer?
In personnel. He's paid to examine employees, isn't he? And now, by the way, what do you think of this?
What? What is it?
A full-page ad Macy's is running in tomorrow's newspapers.
Macy's is running it? But it's all about the other stores. Gimbals and Saks.
I know. Mr. Macy's idea to help our customers find what they want. It's revolting, isn't it?
That Santa Claus certainly has started something. Oh, well, I'll get a hold of him at his lunch hour and send him up to Mr. Sawyer.
So I changed my clothes, Mr. Sawyer, and came right up.
Well then, that's your own beard.
Yes.
Interesting complex in the back of that. Why do you carry a cane?
Oh, I always carry a cane, Mr. Sawyer. Well, that is when I wear street clothes. I carved this cane out of a runner from one of my own sleighs.
What's that? What's that?
Oh, with a fine, solid silver top.
Who was the first president of the United States?
What? Oh, give me a difficult one, like, who was vice president under James Monroe?
I'm conducting this examination.
The answer is Daniel D. Tompkins. You're rather a nervous man, aren't you, Mr. Sawyer? Tell me, do you get enough sleep?
My personal habits are no concern of yours. Now, what hand am I holding up?
Left hand.
How many fingers do you see?
3. Oh dear, you bite your fingernails too.
Stand up. Feet together. Arms extended.
Muscular coordination test. I've taken dozens of these. Mr. Sawyer, are you happy at home?
What? That will be all, Mr. Kringle. This examination is over.
Thank you.
And it may interest you to know that I've been happily married for 22 years. Very happily married.
Delighted to hear it. Goodbye, Mr. Sawyer.
Miss Braun,
Yes, sir.
get Mrs. Walker on the phone.
Yes, sir, but your wife, Mr. Sawyer, she's called 4 times already.
Well, you tell my big fat wife to shut up and mind her own business.
Here's Mrs. Walker, sir.
Oh, all right. Now,
I was just going to call you, Mr. Sawyer.
no?
There's a Dr. Pierce stopping by this afternoon at 3.
Who's Dr. Pierce?
She's a physician at the Brooks home. I thought we might discuss Mr. Kringle's case with her.
Well, there's hardly any point in discussing it, Mrs. Walker. Obviously, the man should be discharged. Now, Dr. Pierce, Kringle should be dismissed immediately and sent to a mental institution.
Oh, just a minute, Mr. Sawyer.
He's deluded, saying that he's Santa Claus.
It's a delusion for good. I find that he only wants to be friendly and helpful.
His whole manner suggests aggressiveness. Look at the way he carries that cane. Mrs. Walker, naturally I can't discharge that loony. So when he exhibits his maniacal tendencies, please realize the responsibility is all yours.
Well, I'm right back where I started. Mrs. Walker, I assure you, Kris Kringle has no maniacal tendency. But if there's the slightest possibility of his causing any trouble, what trouble? All that needs to happen is the policeman asks his name, Kris Kringle, and clang, clang, and Macy's Santa Claus ends up in the psychiatric ward. Well, you can prevent that very simply. Now, there must be someone here at the store who could rent him a room, and they could both come to work together. I would just assume he avoided that long train ride from Long Island anyway. You mean sort of take custody of him? Mm-hmm. Do you think Mr. Kringle would agree to that? Oh, I'm sure he would agree. Well, in that case, let me see. Who do I know that could rent him a room?
I'm glad you guys had dinner with us, Mr. Kringle.
Oh, thank you, Susan.
I'm also very glad you're going to live next door to Mr. Gailey.
Oh, why?
Because you're nice to talk to.
Oh, I say. What a fine young man that Mr. Gailey is, eh? Just think, allowing me to stay in his apartment. A mere stranger.
He did it because Mother hinted to him.
Oh. Well, anyway, I am very grateful.
Shall I tell you what I did in school today?
Oh, by all means. Any games?
Yes, and a very silly game, too.
Oh,
They played zoo, and each child was supposed to be an animal.
oh, Susan, they were just pretending.
But that's what makes the game so silly.
Well, of course, in order to play games, you must have imagination.
Oh, that's when you see things, but they're not really there.
Well, yes, but, to me, imagination is a place all by itself. Now, you've heard of the British nation
Mm-hmm.
and the French nation.
Yes.
Well, this is the imagination. A very interesting place, too. Now, how would you like to be able to make snowballs in the summertime?
What?
Or be the Statue of Liberty in the morning, and in the afternoon fly south with a flock of geese?
Well, I'm quite sure I'd like it, but...
Oh, it's really very simple, really, but... Well, anyway, look here, the next time you play zoo, you could be a monkey.
But I don't know how to be a monkey.
Oh, don't you? I'll show you. Now, first, you bend over a little like this, see? Now, let your arms hang loose, see?
Like this?
Oh, yeah, that's fine. Now, put your hand over here and start scratching, see? Oh, that's it. That's excellent, Susan. That's as fine a bit of scratching as I've ever seen. Now, now you start chattering.
Chattering?
Yes. Now listen. See? And keep scratching now and then. Well, look here. We'll do it together. See? Chatter and scratch and chatter. See? Oh, that's fine. Susan, fine. You're doing beautifully. Yes, beautifully. Susan, are you still awake?
Uh-huh.
I'm just coming to say good night, Susan, that's all. Now look here, about Christmas. There must be something you'd like for Christmas.
Well, I certainly thought about something, Mr. Kringle.
Oh, you have? What is it then? Tell me.
It's right here on the night table.
Oh.
I tore this page out of a magazine. It's a picture of a house.
Oh, that's what you want, is it? A doll house. Colonial architecture.
Oh, not a doll's house. A real house.
A real house?
Yes, and if you're really Santa Claus, you can get it for me.
Oh, but no. Wait a minute, Susie. What could you possibly do with a big house?
Live in it with my mother, in a backyard with a big tree to put a swing on, in a garden, and a... Oh, well, why even discuss it?
Susie, could I keep this picture, just in case?
I guess so.
Thank you, my dear. Well, Mr. Gailey is waiting for me. Good night, monkey.
Good night, Mr. Kringle.
Take whichever bed you want, Mr. Kringle. You're really very kind, really. Tell me, Mr. Gailey, what is it you do for a living? Oh, I'm a lawyer. Paislip, Sherman, and Mackenzie. Oh, and you like living here in the city? It's convenient. But someday I'd like to get a place on Long Island. Ah. Yeah, nothing huge. Just one of those junior partner deals over in Manhattan. Oh, one of those little colonial houses, eh? Yeah, colonial house would be swell. Well, good. Yes, good. You're quite fond of Mrs. Walker, aren't you? A lot of good it does me. She lives in a cast iron shell that's just a little difficult to penetrate. Oh, well, you have to try a little harder, Mr. Gailey. You know, Mrs. Walker and that child they're a couple of lost souls. It's up to us to help them. Oh? Yes, shall I turn out the lights? Oh, no. No? I am not going to be cheated out of this. You know, all my life I've wondered about it, and now I am going to find out. Tell me, does Santa Claus sleep with the whiskers inside or outside the covers? Outside, of course. Outside, by all means. The cold air makes them grow. Thank you very much. Come in, Mrs. Walker. Come in.
Thank you, Mr. Macy. I just heard something very exciting.
You have. Well, let me tell you something very exciting. Our policy of being kind to customers has tripled our sales. Now, what do you think of that?
That's wonderful, Mr. Macy. And Gimbal thinks it's wonderful, too.
Gimbals?
Gimbals are adopting the same policy.
Well, is that so?
And it gives me an idea. As long as Gimbals are doing the same thing, why not some pictures for the newspapers?
Pictures?
Yes, you and Mr. Gimbal shaking hands.
Shaking hands? R.H. Macy and Gimbals?
Well, yes.
Yes, why not? Well, with Santa Claus. It's a great idea, Mrs. Walker. Macy and Gimbal shaking hands. Stand right there. And you.
Smile!
Oh, wait, that's enough pictures. Thank you. Well, Mr. Gimbal.
Come on, R.H. Now we'll go over to my store and get some really good pictures.
Oh, just a minute. I have something here for Santa Claus. Here you are, Mr. Kringle. A check in appreciation of all you've done.
Mr. Macy, why, that's most kind of you.
I didn't think you were that generous, R.H. That's quite a check. What are you going to do with it, Mr. Kringle?
Well, I have a friend, a Dr. Pierce. She needs a new X-ray machine.
Buy the machine through the store.
10% off.
Oh.
Nonsense. Come over to Gimbals. We'll furnish it at cost.
Oh, keep it up, gentlemen. Keep it up. At this rate, my friend will have a whole new hospital. How did the pictures turn out, Mr. Kringle? Oh, fine, Albert, fine. Say, how about a game of checkers during lunch, eh? Oh, not today, Chris. I don't feel so good. Oh, what's the matter, Alfred? Oh, nothing much. You remember I was telling you how I like to play Santa Claus over at the Y and give out packages to the kids? Yeah, mm-hmm. Well, I was telling Mr. Sawyer about it, and he says that's very bad. And psychologically, it's all wrong. Wrong? To be nice to children? Well, he says guys who play Santa Claus do it because when they was young, they must have done something bad. And now they're trying to do something they think is good to make up for it, see? It's what he calls a guilt complex. Alfred, what else did he say was wrong with you? Oh, nothing much. Just that I hate my father. I didn't know it, but he says I do. Excuse me. Hey, are you going to have lunch? Later. Right now I have an appointment with Mr. Sawyer.
What do you mean, breaking into my office like that?
Are you a licensed psychiatrist?
What business is it of yours?
I have a great respect for psychiatry and great contempt for meddling amateurs who go around practicing it.
Oh, shut up!
You ought to be horsewhipped. Taking a boy like Alfred and filling him up with complexes and phobias.
I think I'm a better judge of that than you.
Just because Alfred wants to be kind to children, you tell him he has a guilt complex.
Having the same delusion. You couldn't possibly understand.
Oh!
And don't think about waving that cane at me.
Either you stop analyzing Alfred, or I'll go straight to Mr. Macy and tell him what a contemptible fraud you are.
Oh, get out of here. Get out of here before I have you thrown out.
There's only one way to handle a man like you. Maybe this will knock some sense into you.
Oh, my head. Oh, help, my head.
Good day, Mr. Sawyer.
Miss Brown, get me the police. Get me Mrs. Walker. Get me the psychiatric ward at Bellevue Hospital.
You can see Mr. Kringle now, Mr. Daly.
Thank you, nurse. Hello, Chris. Hello, Fred. Chris, I've been speaking to the doctors. They say they've given you some tests. Oh, yeah. Same old tests. Only this time you failed to pass them, Chris. You deliberately failed.
Why?
Why? Well, because I had great hopes, Fred. I had a feeling Mrs. Walker was beginning to believe in me, and now, now, I discover she was only humoring me all the time.
This wasn't Doris's idea at all. Mr. Sawyer had you sent up here before she even knew about it.
But why? Why didn't she come to me and explain things?
Because she didn't want to hurt you.
Oh, well, it's not just Mrs. Walker. It's... Well, now take that Mr. Sawyer. He's contemptible, dishonest, deceitful, and... Yet he's out there and I'm in here. Well, if that's normal, I don't want it.
Well, you can't just think of yourself here, Chris. What happens to you matters to an awful lot of other people. So people like me who believe in what you stand for. And people like Susie, who we're just beginning to. Chris, you're letting us all down.
Well, Fred, maybe you're right. Oh, of course you're right. I ought to be ashamed of myself. Let's get out of here.
No, wait a second. You failed your mental examination, but good.
Oh, yes, so I did. Well, anyway, you're a lawyer. Fix it.
Oh, now look, I can't just...
No, I won't let you down, and you won't let me down.
Oh, Chris, now take it easy. Look, there'll have to be a hearing. If you're going to be committed, it has to be before a judge.
Well?
Well, if there's anything I can do, it'll have to be in a courtroom. Now sit tight, Chris. I'll get an idea. I have to get an idea.
You, sent for me, Mr. Macy?
I certainly did, Mr. Sawyer. I brought my family to the toy department to see our Santa Claus. And our Santa Claus isn't there. He's in Bellevue.
Yes, Mr. Macy.
Because he's a lunatic.
Yes, sir. A lunatic.
Lunatic, my foot. Now listen to me, Sawyer. You get that case dropped right away, or you'll have another lump to match the one he gave you.
But it's out of my hands. Mr. Kringle goes to court in the morning.
Well, just see that he's back in the toy department by afternoon. Now, get out of here.
Oh, Mr. Gailey! Mr. Gailey!
Yes?
I've been looking all over for you. I'm Mr. Sawyer.
Oh, so you're Sawyer.
Yes, I was just speaking to the court clerk, and she said you represent Mr. Kringle. Well, I represent Mr. Macy.
Oh, well then I'll see you in court.
Oh, no. That's what I wanted to speak with you about. Now, Mr. Macy would like to drop the whole case right now. You see, we're most anxious to avoid any publicity.
No publicity, huh? That's very interesting.
No. Then you'll cooperate?
You know something, Sawyer? You've just given me the idea I've been searching for.
Oh, good.
If I'm going to win this case, I'm going to need to have public opinion and lots of it. And publicity is just the way to do that. Thanks. And, see you around, Mr. Sawyer.
But, Mr. Gailey!
Just look at these newspapers, Chris. Here, Evening Dispatch. Doctors doubt sanity of Santa who wants goodwill campaign.
Oh, my.
Here, Daily Bulletin. Macy's Santa Claus to have lunacy hearing.
What's this one?
The New York Express.
Is Chris Kringle crazy? Court case coming. Kitties cry calamity.
You have pushed the United Nations clear back to page 5. Now get some sleep, Chris. We go before Judge Harper at 10 tomorrow morning.
Let's listen in as our stars remember Christmas past in jolly old England.
Good night, Mr. Scrooge, and a happy Christmas to you. Bah, humbug, Bob Cratchit. It grieves me to see you in such a sorry state. Oh, it's all these coins weighing me down. My pockets are heavy. I need to keep my money close so no one will steal it. Being a miser is hard work.
What you need is a bank. Not a silly Willy piggy bank, but a bank with tellers and safe deposit boxes, free parking, and more.
Bah, humbug. You mean trust my money to other people? Balderdash.
But look at Tiny Tim. The coin you gave him to U.S. Bank. He's earned interest. He's received thank you gifts. They gave him a loan to buy a deluxe titanium crutch, and best of all, he can hobble down the cobblestones knowing that his money is safe.
Yes, indeed, sir. Zippity-doo-dah!
Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. My, oh my, what an ATM day. 20 of 20 coming my way. Thank you and thank girl, what more can I say? You take my check and give me interest. A loan for certain, everything is actuarial. Let me do drive on, let me walk in. Let me give online a newfangled spin. But in the meantime, let me just say, zippity-doo-dah, USA. Here my coins jingle, here I will fold. Please take my money for when I get old. But in the meantime, let me just say, zippity-doo-dah, what a USA day. After a short intermission, our stars will return with Act 3 of Miracle on 34th Street.
In historic Galena.
For a few weeks, a jolly elderly gentleman named Kris Kringle has been working minor miracles as Macy's Santa Claus. Now, his sanity has been seriously questioned, and in a crowded courtroom, Judge Harper listens patiently as the Assistant District Attorney summons Kris to the witness stand.
Now, this is not a trial, Mr. Kringle. It's just a hearing, so you don't have to answer any questions. Now then, where do you live, please?
Well, it seems to me that's what this hearing will decide, won't it?
Mr. Kringle, do you believe that you are Santa Claus?
Of course I do.
That's all, Your Honor. The state rests its case.
Well, Mr. Gailey,
Your Honor, Mr. Mara contends my client is not sane because he believes he is Santa Claus.
An entirely logical conclusion. Anyone who thinks he is Santa Claus is crazy.
Your Honor, you believe yourself to be Judge Harper, yet no one questions your sanity because you are Judge Harper, do they?
Mr. Kringle is the subject of this sanity hearing,
Well,
not I.
Your Honor, I intend to prove that Mr. Kringle is Santa Claus.
Well, I am Santa Claus. Mr. Mara, I thought you said this was a cut and dried sanity hearing.
Well, I thought it was, Your Honor.
In view of Mr. Gailey's statement, I'll have to review the entire background of this case. Court's adjourned till tomorrow morning.
Hello, Doris. I'm sorry I'm late, but get ready. We are going to celebrate tonight.
What are we celebrating?
Well, didn't you read the papers? Santa's mouthpiece throws bombshell in New York Supreme Court.
Oh, Fred, you're not really serious about this. You can't possibly prove that Kris Kringle is Santa Claus.
Well, you saw Mr. Macy and Mr. Gimble shaking hands. That wasn't possible either.
What does your firm have to say about it? Hyslop and McKenzie and the rest of them.
That I've jeopardized their prestige, and either I drop this impossible case or they will drop me.
You see?
So I beat them to it. I quit.
Fred, you throw away a career because of a sentimental whim?
I'll open my own office.
And what kind of clients will you get?
Well, probably a lot of people like Chris, who are tired of being pushed around. That's the only fun in law anyway. Look, Doris, don't you have any faith in me at all?
It's not a question of faith. It's just common sense.
Faith is believing when common sense tells you not to. And this is not just Chris that's on trial. It's everything that he stands for. Human kindness and love and dignity.
Fred, listen, we've seen a lot of each other these last couple of weeks, and I've become fond of you. We've talked about some wonderful plans, haven't we? And then you do this. Go on an idealistic binge, throw away your security, and expect me to be happy about it.
And I expect too much. Is that it? Well, that's that. Goodbye, Doris.
Hello? Yes, this is Mr. Mara. Well, can it wait till tomorrow? I'm eating dinner. Who's been subpoenaed? Well, how do you think I feel about it? I'll see you tomorrow.
Who was that, Peter?
R.H. Macy's been subpoenaed.
Oh, my.
Now, those reporters, they make me look like a sadistic monster who likes nothing better than to drown pussycats and tear the wings off butterflies.
Quiet, dear. Tommy's still awake.
Oh, yeah.
It'd just break his heart if he knew what his daddy was doing.
I'm doing my job as assistant district attorney.
Well, I'm not so sure that I don't agree with them. Mr. Kringle looks like a very nice old man. I don't know why you have to keep persecuting him.
I'm not persecuting him. I'm prosecuting him. I like the old man, too, but there's nothing I can do about it.
You know, Thomas, sometimes I wish I'd married a butcher or a plumber.
Well, if I lose this case, it's very possible you'll get your wish. R.H. Macy. I wonder what he's going to pull tomorrow.
Proceed with the witness, Mr. Gailey.
Now then, Mr. Macy, if you recognize the defendant, please tell us who he is.
Why, he's Kris Kringle, of course.
I have no. Do you believe him to be of sound mind?
Sound mind? I wish I had a dozen like him.
Mr. Macy, you're under oath. Do you believe that this man is Santa Claus?
Well, now, that's rather delicate.
Just think of the headlines tomorrow. When his Santa Claus is fraud.
You keep out of this, Gimbal.
What did you say? Well, I wish you would. Is that man Santa Claus?
Yes. In my opinion, he most certainly is.
Your Honor, there is no such person as Santa Claus, and everybody knows it.
Can you prove there isn't any?
I won't even try. I'll not waste the court's time with such childish nonsense. Your Honor, the prosecution requests an immediate ruling from this court. Is there or is there not a Santa Claus?
Order in the court! Order in the court! Well now, the court will take a short recess to consider the question.
Hello, Henry.
Why, Charlie, what are you doing here?
Oh, what? Can't an old friend visit you in your chambers? And if you ask me, you've never needed a friend like you do now.
The Kringle case? No, I certainly don't see why they're making such a fuss about it.
Henry, that Santa Claus you've got out there, on trial, for lunacy. This case is dynamite. And you're coming up for re-election here soon.
Charlie, do you know what happened last night? Martha brought the grandchildren over. They wouldn't kiss Grandpa. They wouldn't even talk to me.
You see what I mean? If you rule there is no Santa Claus, might as well start looking for that chicken farm right now.
I'm a responsible judge. How can I seriously rule that there is a Santa Claus?
Well, because of what happens if you don't. The kids read about it, and they don't hang up their stockings. And what happens to all the toys that are supposed to be in those stockings? Nobody buys them, and the toy manufacturers have to lay off employees. Now you've got the AFL and the CIO against you, and they're going to say it with votes. Oh, and the department stores are going to love you too. Oh, yes, Sir Henry. How about the Salvation Army? They've got a Santa Claus on every corner. They take in a lot of money for the poor. Well, you go in there and you rule there is no Santa Claus. But if you do, you can count on getting just 2 votes. Your own and that district attorney out there.
1 vote, Charlie. He's a Republican. Ah, well, let's get this over with. The question of Santa Claus seems to be largely a matter of opinion, and tradition of American justice demands a broad and unprejudiced view of such a controversial matter.
But, Your Honor,
This court, therefore, intends to keep its mind open. We shall ask for evidence on either side.
but the burden of proof clearly rests with my opponent. Can he produce any evidence to support his views?
Your Honor, I can. Will Thomas Mara please take the stand?
Who, me?
No. Thomas Mara Jr. I believe he and his mother are in the courtroom today.
Hi, Papa.
Tommy, do you believe in Santa Claus?
Gosh, sure I do. He brought me a new sled last year.
Now, what does Santa Claus look like, Tommy?
Well, there he is, sitting right over there.
Your Honor, I protest.
Overruled.
Tell me, Tommy, why are you so sure there is a Santa Claus?
Because my papa told me so. Didn't you, Papa?
Thank you, Tommy. You can go back to your mother now.
See you later, Papa.
You certainly will.
Santa Claus, don't forget, this year I want a football helmet.
Don't worry, Tommy. You'll get it.
Mr. Kringle, if you don't mind,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Your Honor, the state of New York concedes the existence of a Santa Claus. But in so conceding, we demand that Mr. Gailey stop representing and presenting personal opinion as evidence. I insist he submit authority to prove that Mr. Kringle here is the one and only Santa Claus.
Well, Mr. Gailey, are you prepared to show that Mr. Kringle is Santa Claus on the basis of unprejudiced authority?
Well, sir, no, not now. I need a little time.
Why not now?
Tomorrow, Your Honor?
Very well. Court's adjourned until tomorrow morning. Oh, brother.
Now come on, Susan dear, finish your supper.
But I can't, Mother. All those things they're saying in the newspapers about Mr. Kringle and Mr. Gailey.
Well, they're having this trial because he says he's Santa Claus.
He's so kind and nice and jolly. He's not like anyone else I know. He must be Santa.
You know something? I think perhaps you're right.
Is Mr. Kringle sad now, Mother?
I'm afraid he must be.
Then I'll write him a letter. Maybe that will make him feel better. I'll cheer him up.
Mr. Postman! Postman!
Yeah, lady?
Would you please take this letter?
Sure, lady. We're going straight down to the post office now. Louie, take it away. What do you know? Louie, another letter for Santa Claus. Hey, here's a new one. Instead of North Pole, it's got an address to Chris Kringle, New York, courthouse.
Well, kid's right.
Oh, yeah, sure. He got a trial down there. He claims he's Santa Claus. And the DA claims he's not. Hey,
Huh?
hey, I got an idea.
What's that?
How many Santa Claus letters we got down there at the dead letter office?
Oh, who knows? Must be 50,000 bags and bags of them.
Hey,
You mean?
well, Louie, why not? Wouldn't it be nice to get rid of them all? Wouldn't? Oh boy. Look, Louie, as soon as we get to the post office, we go see the supervisor. You know something? Then we both get promoted.
And since the defense has been unable to submit one shred of proof that Kris Kringle is the one and only Santa Claus, and since tonight is Christmas Eve, I ask Your Honor that this hearing be terminated without further delay.
I protest. I do have evidence.
Oh, 5 minutes ago you said you didn't.
Well, during Mr. Morrow's oration, the bailiff handed my client the evidence to which I refer.
What evidence?
This letter.
So, yes. Mr. Kringle?
It's from Susan Walker. She believes in me. This letter means more to me than anything in the world. That letter, Your Honor, was delivered by the United States Post Office, an official agency of the federal government. The Post Office Department is one of the largest business concerns in the world. Last year, it had a gross volume of over $1 billion, and this year...
Your Honor, I'm sure we're all gratified that the post office is getting along so well. But what bearing has it on the sanity of this man?
My point is that the post office is a model of efficiency. Furthermore, the laws of this country make it a criminal offense to willfully misdirect mail or intentionally deliver it to the wrong party.
The state of New York is second to none in its admiration of the post office department. We're very happy to concede, Mr. Gage.
For the record, Mr. Morrow?
For the record, anything to get on with this case.
Thank you. Your Honor, that letter just received by Mr. Kringle is positive proof that a competent...
One letter is hardly proof.
I have further exhibits, Your Honor, but I hesitate to produce them.
Come, Mr. Gailey. Put them here on my desk.
But, Your Honor,
I said, put them on my desk.
all right, boys, bring them in.
Your Honor, what is this?
Empty those mail sacks right on Judge Walker's desk. Come on in, bring them all in, or be fined for contempt of court. We'll do it, Your Honor. To rain, to sleep, to courtrooms, anything, we deliver. Your Honor, every one of those letters in every one of those mail sacks is addressed to Santa Claus, and the post office delivered them. Therefore, the post office department recognizes Kris Kringle to be the one and only Santa Claus.
Since the United States government declares this man to be Santa Claus, this court will not dispute it. Case dismissed. And for heaven's sake, get this mail out of my courtroom.
So as soon as I got out of court, I came straight to Macy's to see you, Doris.
Oh, Chris, I'm so glad you won.
Well, we're having a big Christmas party at the Brooks home tomorrow morning. I'd like so much to see you and Susan there.
Oh, we will be there, Chris. And, oh, Chris, would you come home now and have dinner with us?
Oh, now? Me? Tonight? Oh, my goodness, Doris. It's Christmas Eve. Alfred, look who came all the way out here to the home just for our Christmas party. Chris, it's Mr. Macy. Oh, and Mr. Gimbo, too. Oh, excuse me, Alfred. Mrs. Walker and Susan have to leave now, and I want to see them before they go. So, forgive me, will you?
But Susie, darling, you got so many presents.
Not the one I wanted. Not the one Mr. Kringle was going to get for me.
Well, what was it?
It doesn't matter. I knew I wouldn't get it, but I thought he'd at least tell me why.
Susie. I'm sorry, Susie. I tried my best, but
You couldn't get it because you're not Santa Claus.
Susan!
Just a nice old man like Mother said.
You know what? I was wrong when I told you that. You must believe in Mr. Kringle and keep right on doing it. You must have faith in him.
But that doesn't make sense, Mother.
Well, faith is believing in things when common sense tells you not to.
What?
I mean, just because things don't turn out the way you want them to the first time, you still got to believe in people. I found that out.
Hello, Doris.
Fred.
Mr. Gailey, Mr. Gailey.
Merry Christmas, Susie.
Gosh, you just got here and we're ready to leave.
Oh, I've been here,
Oh.
and if you're ready to leave, I can drive you home. Before you go, here. Here's a map. If you take this way, you'll miss a lot of traffic. Now, remember, Ashley Avenue. Now, that's the street you want. Ashley Avenue. Well, thank you, Chris. And Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, Fred. And to you, my dear. And to you, Susan.
I believe, Mr. Kringle. I do. It's silly, I suppose, but I do.
I don't understand it, Fred. The map Chris gave you said Ashley Avenue. We've been on Ashley Avenue now for...
Stop the car! Oh, stop the car, please!
Susie, what is it? What's the matter?
There it is! The house! The house!
Susie?
What in the world?
She's running into that house.
Well, at least there's no one home. It's brand new. Just been built.
Yeah. For sale, it says. Huh. For sale.
What on earth is that child up to?
Susie? Hey, Susie!
Here I am, upstairs!
Now you come right down. You know you shouldn't run around in other people's houses. That's strange.
I'll say.
No. I mean, this house. I've seen this house somewhere before in a magazine or something.
Mother, it's our house. It's the one I asked him for. Mr. Kringle.
Mr. Kringle?
I know it is. Oh, you were right, Mommy. You were right.
Susie?
Mommy told me that if things don't turn out just the way you wanted them at first, you still gotta believe. And I kept believing. And you were right, Mommy. Mr. Kringle is Santa Claus.
Well, now where are you going?
In back to see if there's a swing. There is one. Oh, there is one.
You told her that about believing?
Well, you told me, Fred.
The sign outside. For sale, huh? Well, we can't let her down, can we?
I never really doubted you. It was just my silly common sense.
Oh, now it makes sense to believe in me, huh? I must be a pretty good lawyer. I take a little old man and I prove to the world that he is Santa Claus. Not just anyone could... What's the matter?
There, in the corner by the fireplace.
Oh, no. No!
It can't be. It couldn't
A
be.
cane! Chris's cane! There couldn't be two canes like this anywhere in the whole world.
Silver handle and all.
You know something? Maybe I didn't do such a wonderful thing after all.
Before we meet again in this theater, the most joyful day in the year will have come and gone. There are, in our time, as in every time, a few foolish people who deride the spirit of Christmas. But in every country and in every time, they are overwhelmed by those who find in it the hope and happiness of the future. By those of us who believe in our hearts that there can be peace on earth and goodwill among all men. On behalf of our sponsors, the DeSoto House, Exact Pest Solutions, and U.S. Bank, may I wish all of you the happiest of holiday seasons. Good night and best wishes from WGCA Radio Theater. Anybody a lift in my sleigh?